Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Apex Wilderness Adventures. I'm your host, Luke Boothman. So last time we had to fix our test a little bit, but more importantly, we had to fix the refactoring we did on the service deployment handler, and we found this test existed. So the one thing we didn't do last time was commit true to form. So let's go ahead and do that. We are going to update API version and rename test. Good enough. Hopefully I spelled that right. I can't see it because my face is in the way. All right. Okay, so now, like we talked about last time, we're going to go ahead and now we're going to be able to refactor this code so that it conforms to our trigger handler helper design and doesn't kind of unnecessarily insert itself, because there was nothing about this code that was super unique or different. It was just more complicated because we had to mix the context of insert and update, which caused us a few problems. So now we can take this and, what do we have here? We have appointments to insert, and we have this account that gets added into the create service appointment. I'm not convinced that we can't do this a different way. For example, the first thing I guess we'll probably want to do is take this query out and this query. Let's see, when does this assets get used? It also gets passed in. So this gets passed in only in this create service appointment context. And like we said last time, this is unnecessarily doing queries that we may not even need to do. So we could do, how do we want to do this? So in the old one, we're creating these inside of a loop. In the new one, we won't be able to do it like that. We'll need to collect them and then do this fetch. So creating a service appointment involves this, and we won't need that, but we will want a list of adventure parks, right? And then we would loop through those new parks. And this would be creating service appointments with an S. And we would have a new list of service appointments. And instead of returning it here, we're going to add like that. Okay. And then we don't need to return these, we need to insert service appointments. And so we'll say that this is void. So let's go ahead and make this work now. So the next thing we need to do is we loop through these. We need an account. Accounts by park ID dot get new park dot ID, and we need our asset equals assets by account ID get account dot ID. Okay, and then this code was directly accessing the map, but we'll do it this way. All right, so that's nice because this is what we need. We build the data that we need to. We pass in these new parks, and we're going to find the accounts that are related to that, and we're going to build our map. And then we take those accounts and we find our assets and build our map. And then when we loop through these activated park, we are using the loop to get access to the correct account, correct asset, and now we're going to have to fix this stuff. So no longer do we need this to insert, because we're not going to do that there. We're going to actually do it in a different place. What we do need now is a new list of adventure park called activated parks. So when this is true, instead of doing this, we're going to add the new park. Easy enough, right? And then this has its own thing that we're not touching yet. And now in this code, okay, so then what else do we need to do? Activated parks. So if activated parks is not empty, we're going to call create service appointments by passing in the activated parks. So here we need to do the same thing. Right, this code should never execute, but we don't know if there isn't something else that creates these, because anytime it's created, and it's okay, it is an existing park, but anyway, we're not going to worry about that right now. What we are going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to say that when this happens, we're going to add it to our list. Because we can't assume that there's not something that does this, so let's go ahead and remove that to do, because we can't know from the context of this refactoring whether or not something else is creating the parks. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's run our tests. See if we broke anything. Good. Okay. So with that change, what we did is we conformed to how our handler would work. The way it worked before is it really wouldn't work in the context of our handler because it wasn't going to use the handler helper. Everything was happening in the handler. So we had to take it apart and, refactor it towards the new design. So now this is actually going to be really easy to pull over. I'm going to come into my handler, and this is going to be on after insert. So we're going to have this. And then we're going to take this for loop, and we're going to need to cut some stuff out of it, but that's okay. We'll just copy that because this one didn't have the loop, because basically previously on every after insert, we would create the related data. We'll still do that. But now we're going to need to conditionally look for an active. We don't need that anymore because we know for certain that we're in the after insert context. So now we're just checking for an active park, And I think it should be a new park with an open date. Okay. Slow to catch up, that's fine. Now we can remove this. And so all the update stuff is still there. That's totally cool. We probably need to, we'll come back to that in a second. We need you, we'll bring you out. And then this is going to become public. And this is going to happen inside the helper. So we'll put this at the bottom. This is good a place of any. And then we're going to come back up to here and take this out. And we're going to need to put that in two places. So on after insert, we want to do this. And now it's going to be the Venture Park Trigger Helper. Okay. And now we need to go back and do our after update context. So this one we're going to need to think about a little bit, I think. I do believe. I do believe we're going to need to think about this. So let's just comment this out for now, and we'll know that one of our tests is going to break, but one of them should work. So this should still work, and this one should break, I think. Let's find out. If it does, then that's okay. Good. So this is working. That one's not working. We're going to rip this out of this old test as well and put it into our and we're going to put it here. And then we're going to take this, and this is going to be part of our test ref. Okay. All right. So that's looking pretty good. Now we're ready to deal with our update context. And we have a broken test, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and deploy this, and we're going to run all of our tests to make sure that we didn't accidentally break something that shouldn't have got broken. So you can see that in this case, this refactoring, we've refactored it towards that new design, which makes it easy to move. And now I'm just moving it, right? It should, the test from the service appointment trigger handler or service appointment handler, it's no longer going to exist in the future. So I really want to just put that into the adventure park trigger test. The logic from the service appointment handler needs to be moved to the adventure park trigger handler. I'm just moving this code around. And now that it's been refactored and cleaned up, it's very easy to move. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we're gonna say refactor insert context to existing design. Push that. Now let's deal with our after update context. So we're going to need to deal with a few things. So now this is no longer needed because this is only going to, and I guess the last thing we can do is we can remove this. Let's do that, and then let's rerun all of our tests here, and we should still be good. Good. All right. So we're going to remove old helper ref from trigger. Alrighty, now we're ready to untangle this. So we don't need this anymore because we're only calling it from an after update context. We don't need this anymore. So now we're going to check to see, okay, we're going to check to see, we don't need to check if it's not null because it won't be null anymore. The new park is active and the old park is not active. We don't want to do this. What we want to do is we want to do this, and if new park is active, check that, else do this. So we're not going to collect all of them. We're going to collect a set. So what do we actually need to do? We're going to update the service appointment. So we can just grab the IDs, or do we need more? We need the park. So we'll go ahead and collect the whole park itself instead of just the IDs. And we'll say that we're going to have a new list of adventure park. And these are active parks. And then we're going to duplicate that and call this inactive parks. So active parks are going to be added here. And inactive parks are going to be added here. We don't need this anymore, and that's going to complain and break. That's fine. We'll be searching for these service appointments. And this can be broken into a helper. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to take this and turn it into a, oops. Well, we'll all be refactor this into a method, extract it, get service, fetch service appointments. And that didn't do exactly what we wanted because really we want a list of adventure parks. And we want to search that way. So the service appointment, we get there from account adventure park. Okay. We put the park in the appointment, getting what we need. And then we want to fetch those. So in this case, this again is going to be, we're going to have to take this apart a little bit more. So these are appointments to update. Okay, so what would happen here is that after we've collected them, we would check if not active parks.isEmpty, do something, if not inactive parks is empty, do something else. So what we do is this additional logic is not going to be needed anymore. So we can simplify those things. And basically we're going to in each case, we're going to need to fetch our service appointments. So what we're going to do is create a public static void, and we're going to deactivate related service appointments. And that's going to take a list of parks. Right? And then we're going to fetch them. here by passing in the parks. And then in this case, we can just build, we don't really need to even use our map, but we're just using it for convenience. So we'll appointments to update, and we're going to go through this existing .values.for and appointment, and then this appointment.status equals none. And then appointments to update .add appointment. And then we're going to update appointments to update. And that is all the logic that needs to happen here. So this stuff can all go away because we just redid that, right? This can all go away. Okay. We'll take you out of there. Okay. But now what needs to happen when we have these newly activated is we're going to be creating our service appointments. So here we're going to use the adventure park trigger helper dot create service appointments with a list of active parks. Let's go ahead and double check what that does and see if that's going to work for us. I think it should. So we had to fetch accounts, fetch products, and we're creating them. Yeah, so that's nice. So what that means is that this gets a lot simpler. We don't need to create a map anymore. All we need to do is fetch service appointments. We don't need to return a map. We need to return a list. So you can be a list. We can just add you. We don't even need to do that. We just can take this directly and return it. And then we can not even have to do that. We can just take this query directly and get rid of you, query you directly. Oops. Well, sometimes you press copy when you should press paste. There we go. And then we don't need that. We do need the curly brace there. Okay. Very easy. Very easy. And now this can all go away. And so can this. Okay. Makes sense, right? Easy enough. We're in the update context definitively, because we're only calling this now from the after update. We're checking to see if the park activation has changed. If it's active, we add it to a list of active parts. If it's inactive, we add it to a list of inactive parks. When we don't want to create related today, create service appointments. That's the one. So we'll go in here and we can look, create service appointment. Yes, we need the accounts, we need the assets, we need to create them exactly the same code. So we're reusing that existing code in a way that's very understandable now. But if an inactive part, we just need to mark its status as none. And this code becomes very simple now. Before we had to have a map, we had to be checking for values and all that stuff. And all of that complexity, all the complexity that existed, and you can go back and look through where we started with this code, all of that complexity was a result of mixing context, mixing our separation of concerns, and causing ourselves trouble. So let's go ahead and save, and we're going to deploy. And I think now this test should work. And we've also identified the need for another test, because now our code coverage is going to show us what's been missing, and that's this is not being tested. So now that becomes exposed, right? We want our test coverage to be strong, not because Salesforce makes it, but because it's important to have good code coverage. And right now, we don't even know if this code works because we're not touching it, you know? So, okay, that's looking pretty good. Our test pass. Let's go ahead and run all the other ones. All right. And then the last thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and stop since we're so far into it. And what we're going to do next time is we're going to move this last bit of code into our handler and helper. We're going to move our test over. We're going to delete these, and then we're going to write our final test. And I think after that, we should be completely done with the Adventure Park trigger. And it's been a long road, right? We're in like video 11 of this series or something. So it's been a lot just to kind of take this down. But you know, the refactoring work takes some effort. So let's go ahead and commit before we go. And so refactor towards new design. And again, I don't know if I'm spelling these correctly, but I sure hope I am. Alrighty, great. Thanks, you guys. And I'll see you in the next video where we're maybe going to wrap up the Adventure Park trigger handler. Fingers crossed. We'll see how far we get, but I'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.